This is Lifestyle Locker Radio, and you're listening to the best of IMMUNOPALOOZA. Hi, I'm Dr. Josh Hant, and welcome to Lifestyle Locker Radio, where we help you create an awesome life and lifestyle. From nutrition to fitness, mindfulness to peak performance, and relationships to money mindset, we bring you on an amazing journey to help you unleash your human potential. Hey, we just want to let you know that all of the recordings of IMMUNOPALOOZA were actually done on Facebook Live. So what we're doing is compiling all of them into one place where you can actually listen to all of them. We've put together our favorite ones, which were voted on by our guests and all the comments that came in. So I hope you enjoy these, and definitely check the show notes because there will eventually be a link for you to actually get all of the videos and have access to them. All right, y'all, enjoy the show. All right, we are live again. We have another awesome guest here at IMMUNOPALOOZA. This is Dr. Cyrus Khambatta. I got a chance to meet this guy not too long ago. Very, very brilliant man. Very passionate about what he does. And what I love about him, he's very research-based. He's very organized. And he's really out to help people. Like his goal, his book and his website, Mastering Diabetes. He's got a small population of people in the U.S., like 100 million people or something.
Yep, no big deal. Yeah, just a tiny little blip on the radar.
That he's out to help. So this guy's loaded with knowledge. So Dr. Cyrus, dude, thank you for being here.
Absolutely, thank you, Dr. Josh, for doing IMMUNOPALOOZA. I've been casually watching some of the stuff that you've been putting out, and I love how committed you are to like giving people practical solutions right now, because just like you were saying, people are getting bombarded with bad news left and right. The world has fundamentally changed over the past 7 days.
Yes.
And the last thing that I want to do, or maybe other people want to do, is like read more bad news and more bad news. So let's focus on the things that you can do to improve your overall health right now and minimize your risk for infection.
Yeah, this should be called a can-do movement, right?
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Totally. Give me something positive right now.
Yeah. So I gave a smidgen of a bio. So just give people like a 2-3 minute background of who you are, what you do, why you do what you do, and then let's just jump right into what we were speaking about before, immune.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Cyrus Khambatta. I have a PhD in nutritional biochemistry. And the reason I decided to go get a PhD in the first place was because before I started my PhD, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 22. So that's kind of a late time in life to develop type 1 diabetes, but there's a lot of people like me who are developing type 1 diabetes later and later in life. So point being is I developed type 1 diabetes. I followed the advice of my doctors, which was low carbohydrate diet, because that's what they tell most people living with all forms of diabetes. It didn't work. My glucose was a disaster. Insulin use was going up. So I switched over to eating a plant-based diet because I was just looking for a healthier way to be, period, end of story. And in so doing, I found that it was an unbelievably powerful solution, not only to control my blood glucose and insulin use, but also just to have more energy, to have a more powerful immune system, to be able to exercise more frequently, to be able to recover more quickly, and the list goes on. So I went back to school. I was like, wow, this is fascinating. How come people aren't talking about plant-based diets? Because this was back in 2003 when it wasn't cool. And in that process, I've been able to really uncover a lot of fascinating scientific information about why plant-based diets are so powerful. And here we are today, with chronic disease growing at epidemic rates. And now we have an opportunity to apply plant-based nutrition for a number of different reasons. And it's just a phenomenally powerful approach.
Cool. So let's just jump in. I love that, on our pre-call for that few minutes, you showed me like, all right, I organized this list. And I love that about you, that I can tell that, you're all in. This is not 100%. Like just a thing that you're doing. You're all in to help people. So let's go through that list. Let's go over, I don't remember what the first thing was. What was the first thing on the list? The first bullet point?
So the focus of today is like, what can you do to limit your exposure to the coronavirus? Because over the past 7 days, the coronavirus has basically taken center stage as the most important thing that human beings can possibly talk about right now. And any other subject is just not considered important, right? So there's a pretty strong connection between coronavirus and diabetes, or coronavirus and chronic disease in general, okay?
Yes.
So I realize that like I have diabetes, and I talk a lot about diabetes, but for those of you, who are following, if diabetes isn't a thing for you, that's okay. there's still a pretty strong connection between your susceptibility to coronavirus as well as, or sorry, if you are living with some form of chronic disease. So it turns out that the coronavirus, this COVID-19, is the most recent strain. That's the one that's actually taken the world by storm right now. Specifically targets, doesn't specifically target, sorry. Coronavirus can target people living with diabetes more so than the average population. And the reason for that is because people who are living with high blood glucose have suppressed immunity. Okay, that's one avenue to suppressed immunity.
Okay, got it.
In addition to that, people living with other chronic diseases such as hypertension or cardiovascular disease also generally have suppressed immunity. And as a result of that, if your immunity is suppressed and then you are presented with a virus, the chances of you contracting that virus go up. So the question really becomes, okay, fine. If you're living with some type of chronic disease, whether it's diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or others, what can you do to try and limit your risk for infection? So I want to be 1,000,000% abundantly clear right off the bat. When we're talking about, foods that you can eat and sleep and exercise and all that, like these are things that we know boost immune function, no questions asked. Is it going to specifically fight COVID-19? No, literally nobody knows the answer to that question. Yeah. Nobody knows because it's branding, right? Yeah. So the entire time that we're talking here, the most important thing to think about is the thing that you can do, you have at your disposal for limiting your risk for infection is to avoid contact with as many human beings as possible. Okay, that is the number one most important thing that you can do. So the term is social, what is it called? Social distancing. Right? That's this new like trendy social media term that everyone's using, like social distance yourself, right? Whether you want to call it social distancing or self-quarantining or trying to limit your interaction with other human beings, whatever it is, that is without question the most powerful thing that you can do. Because every time you interact with another human being, you run the risk of either passing the infection from you to them if you already have it, or receiving the infection from them to you, and then you become a carrier and then can pass it on to other people. But if you limit your exposure, then that's the most important thing you can do, period, end of story. So when it comes to chronic disease, one of the most important things to think about here is that this COVID-19 specifically targets one enzyme that is expressed in epithelial cells in the lung, in the intestine, in the kidney, and in the blood vessels. Okay, and this enzyme is called ACE2 or ACE2. Okay, and so what happens is that the coronavirus attaches to ACE2 in epithelial cells in your lung, in your intestine, your kidney, and your blood vessels. And then from that position, it can then replicate, and then it can go on to infect any of those tissues. Okay, so you've probably heard of ACE inhibitors. I mean, you know ACE inhibitors back and forth, right? So there's a lot of patients who are taking ACE inhibitors, whether those ACE inhibitors are for diabetes, for hypertension, for nephropathy, which is kidney damage, or for heart failure. Okay, so if you fall into one of those categories and you are taking an ACE inhibitor, there is some evidence that taking an ACE inhibitor or another medication known as an ARB, which is an angiotensin receptor blocker, either of those two medications may increase your risk for the development of COVID-19. So it's just something to think about here. If you are using an ACE inhibitor, then you could be at a higher risk. I am not suggesting to stop taking that ACE inhibitor because that's not evidence-based at all. But that means that you might want to quarantine yourself even more than your average person to try and limit your exposure to the virus. Okay? So technically speaking, people who are living with type 1 diabetes like myself, or people who are living with some form of an autoimmune condition, whether that's celiac, whether that's hypothyroidism, whether that's type 1 diabetes, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis, you name it. Technically speaking, all of those conditions make you immunocompromised or immunosuppressed. And so that's even more important that if you are living with some form of an autoimmune condition, that you take this seriously and that you put into play, a healthy diet and exercise and sleep that's going to boost your innate immunity, right? Is that going to limit your risk for infection? It may. I have no idea, but it definitely doesn't hurt to try. Yep. No question. Okay. So then the next section we can go into is like, great. Well, what foods can I eat to actually?
Let's do this. Let's go. And then we got the thing down. Let's get into the meat. No, I can't say meat and potato. The potatoes and the potatoes.
The potatoes and eat other potatoes. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about what foods can you eat that will boost your immunity. Okay. Number one, first and foremost. Hopefully, if you guys have a pen and paper, write this down. Number one, cruciferous vegetables. These are some of the most powerful immune boosting, health promoting foods that scientists have ever discovered. Okay. And this includes a whole laundry list of vegetables that are all sort of in the same family, including arugula, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, collard greens, horseradish, kale. Yeah, I did not know that myself. Kale, kohlrabi, mustard greens, radishes, turnip greens, and watercress. Okay, so just to keep it simple, try and get more broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and kale. Just think of those 5 into your diets as much as possible. Okay, those foods have incredibly powerful immune boosting activity, and if you put those into your diet at least once, if not twice per day, then you can significantly improve the function of your own innate immune system. Okay. Now, second tip, which I actually found fascinating, is that when you're eating cruciferous vegetables, do your best to eat them as raw as possible. Try to limit their exposure to heat. By doing so, you're actually going to boost their activity, and which is going to boost the immune modulating activities that they have for you. Okay.
Okay. So what about people that are not the best at eating their vegetables? Would it be okay to put this in some like a Vitamix or blender of some sort to make a smoothie out of these veggies?
For sure, absolutely. Okay. So you can certainly, you can certainly blend them. You can certainly put them in a smoothie. I realize that they may not be the greatest tasting foods on the planet, and a lot of people who don't love eating vegetables are going to have a difficult time with that. So yeah, for sure. And here's the thing: if you have to cook them in order to make them more palatable, go ahead and cook them. I'm not saying don't cook them. Yeah. I'm saying that if you can eat them raw, eat them raw. But if you have to cook them, I'd rather you cook them and get them in your body than not put them in your body at all.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Fair enough.
Okay. Now, the next class of plants are, we can kind of go one by one because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different plants that I think are very powerful. Okay. So, number one, onions and garlic. Okay. You've probably heard about this, and I'm sure other people have heard about them as well. Onions and garlic contain these super powerful, what are called organosulfur compounds. Yep. And these organosulfur compounds have a bunch of crazy names that are really hard to pronounce. And they have been documented in both, in vitro experiments and test tubes, as well as in human beings to boost immune function. Okay. So one of the ways that they can do it is they can increase the function of these antioxidant enzymes that are circulating in your blood and in tissues. And some of these antioxidant enzymes, don't remember these names, include things like glutathione peroxidase, glutathione S-transferase, cytochrome B5, cytochrome P450, and superoxide dismutase. Okay, so these are all like fancy super nerd scientific ways of describing specific antioxidant enzymes that your body naturally expresses. Yeah. And when you consume garlic and onions, you actually enhance the ability of those antioxidant enzymes to do their own thing.
And we'll quiz you on those names tomorrow.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. You better pass. Okay. Next one that I find fascinating that I put in my food almost on a daily basis is ginger.
Love me some ginger.
Yeah. Who doesn't love ginger? Okay. So ginger is one of the cheapest and most widely available potent immune boosting foods available in the grocery store today. Ginger is so cheap, it's not even funny. Okay. And there's actually some studies that show that ginger is especially effective in fighting respiratory infections and arthritis and allergies and gout. And the reason why that's important is because COVID-19 was considered a SARS, a sudden acute respiratory syndrome, right? So it causes a respiratory infection, which means that if you consume ginger, does that mean that you're going to prevent SARS from hitting you? Probably not, but it's worth a try. Why not include it? Because it can boost your ability to potentially ward off respiratory infections.
Yeah, proactive is the way to be.
Absolutely. Okay, so go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just thinking, and I'll share this with everybody afterwards. One of the things that we teach in our practice, in our chiropractic practice, and we share is we call it our anti-inflammatory drink. We help teach people how to make an organic green tea, but we help extract you use a pound of ginger when making it. So you extract all the good nutrients out of the ginger, and then you use the ginger in food throughout the process of this week. I'll share it
wow.
with you after as well. So I'll share with everybody. But it's I'm learning more now about ginger than I even probably did before, which is
Okay.
great. And so it's having more anti-inflammatory properties, which are helping with even with the lung, all of these, the body. So I think it's really cool. So I'll
For
share that
sure.
with
For sure.
everybody. So thank you for bringing up ginger.
Well, sure. It's actually the next thing I was going to go into is green tea. So like you just stole the words out of my mouth, right? Okay.
There we go.
So there are literally thousands of papers that have studied the effects of green tea on everything from digestive conditions to ability to sleep to anti-inflammatory properties to the ability to improve blood flow to fight against cardiometabolic diseases. It's unbelievable how powerful green tea is. So green tea is a very powerful immune modulating food or drink, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they contain a whole collection of very powerful antioxidants. The group of antioxidants are called catechins. It's called CATECHINS. Okay. So catechins are a wide family of antioxidant compounds. And one of those that's one of the most powerful is called EGCG. I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure other people have, everywhere you go in the grocery store, if you go in the tea aisle, you see like contains EGCG, right? Mm-hmm. And EGCG is considered one of the more powerful catechins, and it is it's present in green tea in high quantities. Now, if you were to take green tea and ferment it, you would end up with black tea, or you could end up with black tea depending on how much you ferment it.
Okay.
When you ferment green tea to black tea, the EGCG content decreases.
And then caffeine goes up, or does it affect?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know about the caffeine, but I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah, because green tea has less than black tea for sure. So, when you ferment green tea towards black tea, that decreases the EGCG content, which means that you want to try and stay as green as possible. And now, green tea also is not only anti-inflammatory, but it's also widely known to be anti-carcinogenic. Okay, so it's actually a very good preventative measure to put in place if you are at risk for cancer, or if you have family members or a family history of cancer as well. Okay, so green tea is something that I would highly recommend including in your diet at least 1 cup a day, in addition to, like we said, the organosulfur compounds, plus ginger as well.
Can I ask you a question that you may or may not know? What about white tea?
Oh, white tea. I don't know that much about white tea.
Okay. I know it's baby green tea. And I'm just trying to remember what I've heard. And I don't know if there's any science behind this, but I've heard it's higher in antioxidants than green tea. Yeah. It has almost no flavor, white tea. I mean, that's why people probably don't drink it as much as my guess, because green tea at least has a flavor to it, a distinct flavor. But I guess that's something we got to look into. So just putting it out there.
All right. I'm going to go do some reading as soon as I get off this call.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen it in the grocery store before, but I don't really know that much about it myself. Okay. So.
Well, you're the science nerd, man. You gotta let me know what's going on.
Why you always got to give me more homework, man? Jeez. It's got plenty of stuff to do already.
No. All right. So let's keep rolling. This is good.
Okay. Here we go. Echinacea. I'm sure you've heard of echinacea. I'm sure other people have heard of echinacea. Okay. Now, echinacea is another extremely powerful immune modulator. And it has a number of different functions, but one of the functions that I think is very particular to this conversation is that it can help stimulate your immune system to fight against both bacterial and viral infections, and that's been documented in scientific literature. Okay, so you can buy echinacea at the grocery store. Usually it comes in like a little tincture bottle that's like echinacea inside of alcohol. And you unscrew it, it's got a little medicine dropper, and you take it, you drop it into a glass of water, and you drink that once a day, once every other day. So if you're, what I want people to understand here is that with these medicinal plants, a little bit goes a long way.
Yes.
A little bit goes a long way, right? So it doesn't mean you have to add ginger to every single meal. It doesn't mean you have to have onions and garlic in your oatmeal, right? All it means is that on a daily basis, you try and include at least one serving of these foods, right? Have one serving of onion, one serving of garlic, one serving of ginger, okay? One teaspoon of, one dropper of echinacea, okay? But have one glass of green tea. If you can kind of like stack all these things in addition to each other, then there's no, I mean,
the compound interest.
Power. Exactly right, yeah. The power that they have in helping you boost your immune function goes up dramatically.
Yeah.
Okay, now, everyone's favorite anti-inflammatory, turmeric, turmeric, turmeric.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember when I was back in graduate school, back in between 2007 and 2012, turmeric hadn't like exploded yet. It hadn't become a thing.
Yeah.
And there was one girl in our program who was studying the effect of turmeric on cancer cells in vitro in a petri dish. And she had some very, very compelling data. And I remember looking at that thinking like, wow, who knew that turmeric, this root that you can get, at a grocery store that you can find in Indian stores all over the place could be so powerful. And then literally 6 months later, all of a sudden, boom, turmeric all over the place.
Yeah.
Now you can't escape turmeric even if you're trying.
Yeah, and the craziest part about turmeric, and I remember being at grocery stores, was like I've been making this tea for more than almost 15 years now, this ginger tea that I was telling you about. And I would buy turmeric from time to time, but it would, if you spilled on yourself, forget about whatever you're wearing is garbage. It stained, how powerful turmeric is. And it was only, we'll just say, for example, $3 a pound, we'll just say. And maybe in like the past few years, I went to go buy raw turmeric. It's like $16, $18, $20 a pound, which is
it's gotten
nuts,
a lot more expensive.
Right? I'm like, holy cow. I mean, well, it's still cheaper than a disease would be. Right.
Yeah,
to be proactive. So
for sure.
It's definitely something if you could still find, raw, super powerful.
Yeah. So if you can find raw turmeric, I actually have some in my house right now. Let me just pull this up because this stuff is powerful. The cool thing here is that I don't know if you can see this right here can you see this spice cupboard that I have right here?
Yeah.
So this is what I refer to as Spice World. And if you go into Spice World, you're going to find everything from fennel seeds to chili powder to cumin to cayenne pepper to cardamom to curry powder, you name it. And the reason here is because spices help change the flavoring of your food, but they also have incredibly powerful immune boosting activity, right? What a weird concept, right? So a little bit of this stuff goes a long way. So when it comes to turmeric, you can either get turmeric as a spice bottle, as you can see right here, right? And it's literally got this like orange color, just like you said. If you get this on your clothes, good night. It's like paint. Yeah, it doesn't come off, right? So, I mean, how much of this stuff do you need to add to food in order to like make it powerful? Literally like a quarter of a teaspoon or less.
Yep.
Right? It's super powerful. So adding this to your food on a daily basis is not hard to do.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead. I want to add something to the turmeric when you're done.
Okay. Right here. It looks like ginger.
Yep.
This is actually turmeric root, and you can see it's kind of got this orange color to it.
Yep.
Okay. So I can even smell it here. So you can take this. In my opinion, this stuff tastes better than the turmeric powder. So all you do is you basically just take off like a thumb's worth, like the thumbnail's worth, cut it off, grate it, and then put it on your food. It's got a really good flavor. This has a not so good flavor, but both of them are very powerful.
Yeah. So I was going to say, for those that do like making like a homemade curry dish, like my wife and I will take organic coconut milk and coconut cream. We'll use turmeric and ginger, the powders, and then some of the grated fresh stuff and other spices in there that are, as you said, spices are super, super powerful, health-wise. It's probably like 10 times stronger than a vegetable itself, like having these little amounts of spices. But it's super good. You get a strong flavor. You get a strong flavor of like the spices, and you can load it with vegetables, and it's very filling. You don't need a ton of it if you're making it with the coconut milk and coconut cream. It's unbelievable.
Yes, 100%. So you're right. Actually, it almost seems like the Indians got it right. Like my family is actually from India.
Okay.
And I grew up eating a lot of Indian food, and when you eat Indian food, you get things like constantly onions, garlic, ginger, curry powder, cardamom, cinnamon, turmeric, they literally take all this stuff, they mix it together, and they turn it into curries or they turn it into pastes, and then you can, flavor different foods with it. And somehow they figured out that every single one of these is a very powerful antioxidant compound and beyond, and managed to mix it all together. So if you like Indian food, you want to eat Josh's curry, then go for it. I think it's a very powerful thing that you can do, no question.
So good. All right, so I didn't want to, I'm thinking about food now as
I know, seriously.
at this point.
Okay. Have you ever heard of Indian gooseberries before?
I actually have heard of Indian gooseberries, but I don't know why I've heard of Indian gooseberries.
Okay. So Indian gooseberries have another name. They're called Amla, A-M-L-A.
Okay.
And it looks like a grape. It's about, the same size as a grape. It's fluorescent green. And it's grown mainly in India. Again, Indian people are very smart. They found out that most powerful antioxidants, actually the most powerful antioxidant food on the planet. Okay, it's twice as powerful as turmeric. It's more powerful than acai berries. It's more powerful than black raspberries. It's more powerful than walnuts. It's more powerful than green tea. Okay, so there's this scale that people use, or that scientists use, to try and rate how powerful an antioxidant is. It's called the ORAC scale, the oxygen radical absorbance capacity scale. Okay, so if you place a whole bunch of foods on the ORAC scale, and then you can kind of like rank order them to say, oh, blueberries have a 2,000 and turmeric has a 17,000. Amla berries have a score of 261,500. It is like a league above the rest of the competition.
Like stratosphere, shooting
exactly.
Up. Wow.
So Amla berries can be kind of challenging to get your hands on. You can get them at your local Indian store. They have them dried, they have them frozen, they have them in a paste, you name it. Okay. And they've been used in Ayurvedic medicine for hundreds of years to treat a wide variety of ailments, whether they're chronic conditions or whether they're infectious by nature. So you can even go to Amazon. You can just type in Amla into Amazon, and there's a whole bunch of different products.
Okay.
And you can pick up one of those products there. I highly recommend it. We actually decided to create a tea. So Amla berries are they're not that tasty, I'll be honest with you. So we created a product where you take Amla berries and we mixed it with green tea, because we know how powerful both of those are. And we mixed it with the right type of oolong green tea, and then flavor comes out beautifully. And then we made another version, which is just Amla with hibiscus. We put the two of them, and the flavor comes out real well.
Okay.
Point being is that we turn it into a tea. You drink it, once a day, and now you get the power of both green tea or hibiscus as well as the berries. Point being, whether you get that or whether you get something else, it doesn't really matter. All I'm saying is that if you were to include Amla berries into your diet on a daily basis, then you're going to, take your antioxidant game to the next level as well.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Okay, and then, so let's just do a quick recap here. We got onions, garlic, ginger, echinacea, green tea, turmeric, and Indian gooseberries. Yes. Okay, so those would be my 7 front runners. Okay.
Yes.
Now, let's take a second here and talk about foods that have negative effects.
Yeah. The foods to avoid.
Foods to avoid at all costs, please. Okay. Foods that are known to not only increase your risk for chronic disease, but they are known to suppress your immunity. And in this world, if you're trying to boost your immunity, then eating any of these foods is not going to work. Number 1, processed meat. Processed meat, ham, sausage, bologna, bacon, cold deli cuts. Okay, these are known as class 1 carcinogens. There's no question about it. There's
one. That doesn't
ample
sound good.
science. No, it's not
that doesn't sound good.
There's no denying the connection of processed meat to cancer. That's what a class 1 basically means.
Okay.
And not only is it a class 1 carcinogen, but it's also strongly associated with an increased risk for diabetes as well. Okay. So if you can try and minimize or eliminate your processed meat intake, you're doing yourself a huge favor. Number 2, full fat dairy products. Full fat dairy products are known to have immunosuppressive activities. And there's a lot of confusing information on the internet today that says full fat is actually very healthy for you, and consume full fat dairy products whenever possible, right? We don't have the time to necessarily go into it, but I highly recommend limiting or eliminating your intake of full fat dairy products, and don't believe the hype, basically.
Okay.
The hype is not necessarily always
So let's
evidence-based.
just pause for a second, because let's say someone likes to use heavy cream, or they use something in coffee, if they're having a coffee or tea. What
Mhm.
would be a healthy replacement besides just not having it at all? Like if they're like, I want like that creamy flavor, that whatever it is, what would you
Okay.
recommend?
So what I would recommend in that situation is go for like a plant-based milk. You can go for like almond milk.
Mm,
If you go to the store these days, you can get like an almond milk latte,
okay.
um, right? And it actually has like a very solid flavor to it. You can also add rice milk as well. Just so you choose some plant-based milk
Mm,
and add it, and you can still get that sort of like creamy flavor. It's going to be a little
okay.
bit different, but at least it kind of is more. It gives you diversity rather than just drinking black coffee by itself.
Okay. Perfect. Good. Now we can keep going. I want to give people an option. They're like, "Ugh, I can't do something."
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Number three, refined sugars and all of their derivatives. Okay, refined sugars and artificial sweeteners in general. There isn't a single health expert that is telling you to eat more refined sugar. The problem is that people get refined sugars and whole carbohydrate rich foods mixed up.
Mm,
And we had talked about that on our podcast back in the
yes.
day. But the idea here is that a banana and a teaspoon of sugar
Mm,
are talked about as though they have the same effects on the human body, and that is completely wrong. That is a huge fallacy. Okay, so what I'm suggesting you do is I'm suggesting that you limit or completely avoid your intake of white sugar, of high fructose corn syrup, and of added sugars, artificial sweeteners that get put into packaged products. And what I'm saying is you also want to increase your intake of fruits. Okay, so increase your intake of bananas and mangoes and papayas and strawberries
mm,
and peaches and pears and plums and nectarines, because those foods do not behave the same way as refined sugars do. Those are whole carbohydrates that have a whole collection of micronutrients
mm.
in them. So eat those whole foods because those micronutrients are gateways to improved immunity.
Good.
All right. Number four, fried foods. Fried foods, whether they're potato chips or like a country fried steak or potato chips, okay? Things that have been fried in oil, especially if that oil has been reused at a which is very common practice at restaurants, okay? Especially if they have been fried in partially hydrogenated oils,
Mm,
okay? Minimize, eliminate at all costs, because those foods not only increase your risk for chronic disease, but they also can suppress your immunity.
yeah.
Okay?
No
And
fried food.
then no fried foods. And then packaged and processed foods, okay? And the easiest way to determine whether something is like considered safe to eat or not is just to read the ingredients on it. There's two rules that I have. Number one, if it has more than 4 ingredients, it's suspect. Number two, if you can't pronounce a single one of the ingredients, don't buy it. Okay? If you can't pronounce it or if you can't draw it on a piece of paper, don't buy it.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's
And
scary, because that's probably the majority of what most people eat.
I know it really is. And if you actually take the time to read the ingredients on most packaged products, it's scary. Like you don't even know what these words are. Okay? So
You know what they are.
I can't even draw them. I can't honestly. Um, and these foods are things like pastries, cookies, candies, chips, sodas, crackers. Okay, stuff that had to go through a manufacturing process in order to become palatable,
Hmm.
and that's put into a can, a package, a box, or some type of material, packaging material that has a long shelf life. Okay.
Mhm.
I know they're tasty. I get it. I used to eat those things like nobody's business, right? Point being is that if you eat them, they can dramatically increase your risk for chronic diseases. And when you do that, you also suppress your immunity, and they both put you in the wrong direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
So eliminate or avoid processed meat, full fat dairy products, refined sugars, fried foods, and packaged and processed foods.
Good. So we got the to eat, the not to eat, and now I think we have movement. Is that what we're going to go over?
Yeah, that's right. So when it's on, well, I just wanted to talk briefly here about exercise because, you love exercise. You are an avid ultra marathon runner, and you do it. Tell me why you exercise. Explain that to me.
Well, I enjoy it. I enjoy like that. Get to have energy throughout the day when I'm not exercising. Like I do my exercise because one, it gets me into a headspace where I can just be with myself. It's
Yeah,
almost it can be a form of meditation at that point, meaning thoughts. You start to think of things because you're getting a lot of extra blood flow to the brain. But I love the way I feel. At times, I'm like, wow, I love the way I look in a mirror. Not that that's the main reason I do it, but
for
it's
sure.
it's great to have like a sense of comfort with knowing you're doing something that's very proactive for your life, and and I do it to also inspire other people to take that next step, just to be a little bit better for themselves. So, it's kind of selfish, but it's also a give as well for me.
That's awesome. So how often are you exercising on a daily or weekly basis?
I will exercise daily. Will it be
Mhm.
running every single day? No, but it may mean, like, since we're quarantined, if you will. If I don't get in trouble for being outside, I'll go for a run outside, and if not, I don't have a gym at my house. Push-ups. I got a pull-up bar. I have some
Mhm.
very light weights that my wife uses that I can do like 1,000 reps of something with. But I just move. You got to move a little bit. I go take my dog for
Yeah,
long walks. That counts too.
that's great. Okay, so on an average day, I don't know if this is even an appropriate question for you, but like, how much time on average are you spending exercising per day?
So if it's not a running day, it could be like
Yeah.
45 minutes to an hour, and it could be as little as like a 20-minute like interval workout with some walking.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so then final question for you would be, have you noticed that during times when you're doing a lot of training, like if you're training for an event or some type of competition coming up, have you noticed that your immunity goes down? Like you become higher risk for respiratory
You know,
infections?
yeah, I don't know actually.
You
Because
know?
with my training, I will say this, and I know we said this when we had our original conversation. When I get like my energy usage goes up, when my training goes up, when I'm running like 20 miles a day for 5 days in a row for an ultra
Mhm.
marathon training, my food intake gets so specific, and it's so nutrient dense that I would say no, I don't feel weaker in that sense.
Okay, so that's actually important because what you're doing is you're bringing your nutrition game even higher as
Yes,
a
100%,
result.
100% I am.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So effectively what you're doing is you're improving your nutrition habits while you are heavy training, and that is
Yeah.
actually helping to help you perform and recover and also help prevent against suppressed
Yeah.
immunity.
I'm not the
And the reason
person I'm not the person that goes and, I'll run 20 miles, I'll come back like, great, I got like chocolate chip cookies and ice cream. Like I don't like, wow, I just burned 4,000 calories. I don't need to go eat it back in crap.
Yeah, right. If I'm going to eat it back, I'm going to eat it back in something that's like super nutrient dense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So exercise has an incredibly profound effect on the functioning of your immune system. Okay. Scientists have known this for a long time, and there's plenty of data to back this up. Okay. There's one review paper which I have been reading over the past couple of years that I just find to be actually phenomenal. And one of them, it's actually not even a paper, it's a chapter in an exercise physiology textbook.
Okay.
And it says in here, quote, "It is generally accepted that prolonged periods of intense exercise training can actually depress immunity, while regular moderate intensity exercise is beneficial." Okay. And then another thing, elite athletes frequently report symptoms with upper respiratory tract infections during periods of heavy training and heavy competition.
Okay.
Okay. So what's important to take away from this is that while you are self-quarantining, while you are social distancing yourself and staying at home or trying to limit your interaction with other humans, I think one of the things that people do is they use that as an excuse to eat junky foods and not move their body.
And self-pity. Yeah.
And self-pity. Yeah, let's turn this into a pity party,
Yeah.
right? Oh, woe is me. I can't go outside. I can't go interact with my normal friends and family. Like I can't go to work. I guess I'm just trapped in this house all day long. Okay. Rather than thinking about it like it's this some kind of like prison that you've been put into. Okay. Understand a couple of things. Number one, the rest of humanity is doing this with you. Okay. This is not a sentence that has been given to you. This is a sentence that's been given to every single person on this planet right now to try and limit your interaction with other human beings. And so therefore, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to dial in an appropriate lifestyle that's going to give you long-lasting and rewarding benefits. Okay? This is an opportunity for you to work on your nutrition. It's an opportunity for you to become really creative about how you move your body. And it's an opportunity for you to get more sleep if that's possible in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay? And we know all of these things are going to improve your immunity, period, end of story.
Yeah.
Okay? So, a simple thing that you can do is try and carve out a minimum of 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes of movement on a daily basis. And that movement does not need to be complicated or sophisticated in any way, shape, or form. Go onto Facebook, go onto Instagram, go onto Google and type in "at home exercises." and watch what happens. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people who are now giving you different prescriptions 100% for free that says, do this exercise and then do this exercise. It can literally be as simple as doing like push-ups against a wall and then air squats and then jogging in place and then getting on a jump rope, right? It's not complicated. Totally. It requires zero equipment.
Yeah, and my wife is the perfect example. I love her for this. She probably right now, even while we're on this call, there's a high probability that our coffee table's been pushed off to the side. On TV, she's got YouTube open, and she's jumping up and down, doing whatever, then going outside and doing sprints down the driveway. She's using this time. I think she's working. I mean, she's pretty avid exerciser, if you will. But this is now she's doing it. She's like, well, she can't go to work, so it's like every single day. And she loves it. I mean, she goes, it's not the same as a gym, but she's like, it's easy. She's like, I'm so sore. Don't make me laugh. My abs hurt. I'm like, never say that.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
I like her style, actually. I like her style because I think all of us, you and her and me, we've all been sort of like infected with the same, condition, which is that we're like hyperactive.
Yeah.
And we like to move our bodies because we get a lot of personal satisfaction out of it. Yeah. And I would encourage people who maybe don't love exercise or maybe have some kind of like tension-filled relationship with it to use this time as an opportunity to just get involved in exercise on a daily basis, because not only can it boost your immunity, not only can it make you sleep better, not only does it make you just a little bit more hungry, right, which is sometimes a fun thing, but it actually has very powerful mental benefits as well. Yeah. It's been known that it can dramatically reduce your risk for depression. And if you are already depressed, it can actually make you make you a happier person.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Movement is always a good thing. Even if you're uncomfortable go for a walk. Like if you can't walk, do something. People are like in the city, especially New York City, people are in so much fear that they're cooped up in a small, confined space. I'd say open your windows up, let the air flow through, jump up and down. Like you said, go online. There's a zillion things to do.
It's unbelievable how easy it is to find at-home exercises these days, because even before COVID-19 hit the world, people had been developing a whole collection of at-home workouts, and now is the time. I mean, these things have been around for years.
Yes.
And so now the time to really capitalize on it, and just like Josh's wife, use the coffee table if it's helpful to you. You can exercise in your living room with YouTube on in your television. Yeah. You can exercise in your bathroom. Yeah. You can exercise in your laundry room. Like, it doesn't really matter, but you just find a space.
Yeah.
And you perform exercise right in there, and it actually feels really darn good.
Yeah, and the first, I laughed actually yesterday. She goes, "Where's your jump rope?" I go, "You're gonna jump rope?" Like she's never jumped rope before. Like, I'm not very coordinated. Exactly. I'm like, here, enjoy yourself. Like, have a blast. So it's cool. I think that's like the last piece that I'd love just to add is with all of the things that we know we can do with nutrition, with movement. And we've had, we had Emily Fletcher on just before. You were talking about meditation and what we can do. I think there can be a lot of good that can happen to a lot of people depending on how we look at this situation, right? Depending on how we actually take action on this situation. And I mean, there's so many chances to learn. There's so many chances to move more. There's so many chances, like you said, to redial in, like, wow, you know what? Maybe I could be healthier. Maybe I'll start to eat more vegetables. Maybe I'll try this plant-based thing. Maybe I'll do whatever it is. Like, there's so many opportunities now, and I had interviewed a gentleman last night named Dr. Dan Pompa, and we were joking, but they're doing a 5-day water fast. It's like, we don't need to stock up on food. Like, we'll do a 5-day water fast. We'll go back to eating slow. Right. Like, and all, it just really is some really great things to do. So
exactly. It doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
In fact, I would almost say that like this is an opportunity for you to like really simplify your lifestyle and try and figure out what is it that makes you tick. Mm-hmm. Right? What can you do in your life today to eat better, to move more, to be around your friends and family, to share love, to give love, and to really like dial in your lifestyle brilliantly such that you can take that with you when the world starts to increase at its like a normal pace. You can take that with you, and then you can kind of be a better version of yourself tomorrow.
Agreed. I think that's a great note to end on. I think this has been a phenomenal conversation. And Cyrus, again, like, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your knowledge that you bring to the table, and in the lifestyle world, you are you're a good dude to know, and you're a good giver, and I appreciate you, and I know. Bless you. Come on. I guess in the Italian culture, that means, is that true? It's true. That's what people say.
Oh, yeah.
When you sneeze, it must be true, right? But yeah, I want to thank you. You know, everybody that's getting to listen to this now. This is going to be broadcast everywhere. Hopefully, you can share as well. But we're going to put this everywhere we can and get it into as many hands as we possibly can, and eyes and ears, I should say. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I really appreciate you going above and beyond and trying to help out as many people as you possibly can, because this is a time where people are looking for help, and we're being forced to live in a slightly weird and strange way, but that's okay. This may become normal in the future, and the idea is if you can really like dial in your lifestyle when you're sort of quarantined, then there's nothing from stopping you being the best version of yourself.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode of IMMUNOPALOOZA today here on Lifestyle Locker Radio. Make sure you scroll down, check out our guests' information, connect with them. Also, make sure you do head over to Lifestyle Locker Radio and click the tab that says book, and you can get a free ebook called Inside the Locker. It's my gift to you. Also, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, you know what you can do. The best thing, and I'm just going to ask, is head over to iTunes and give us that great 5-star review. Only if you want to do it, of course. We would greatly appreciate it. Our guests would appreciate it because it helps us connect to more people like you. So wherever and whenever you're listening to this, have a great day, evening, or night, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.